Welcome to the Derek Loudermilk Show. This is 5 Minute Friday. I'm going to be telling you about an experiment I did every day for the month of January where I used Reiki on myself in order to improve workout performance and recovery. So, if you don't know what Reiki is, it's a type of healing. It's a type of hands-on healing that has been passed down for millennia. There's sort of different lineages. Basically, you can acquire it. You can be attuned by someone who's a master teacher, someone who is practiced enough to be able to pass it on. So, I recently, at the end of last year, started the process of getting this Reiki. There's some theories about how it works and why it works, but essentially you're just allowing energy to flow through you. And so as a beginner, I just had to practice. So I needed to practice on myself. And what better way to do it than to see if it actually helps in a specific area that I use all the time, which is training. So I'm doing plyometrics. I'm working on muscle ups. I'm training for cycling, lifting weights. And so, I was doing this about 6 days a week through the course of January. And so I said, I'm going to do an experiment just on myself, of course. So there's not a huge, number of participants. And I think, there's room for further study here. Now, Reiki has been studied scientifically. There's proof that it works in sort of a wellness setting in hospitals. There's been some study in terms of increased performance in teams, but there hasn't been a lot of studies. Can we apply this to just enhance performance in individuals? So I'm always looking for how can we take some of these modalities, healing modalities, mental training modalities that are applied to sort of people to help make them more well. And so there's like the application for people that need help and support with healing, but then there's also the sort of peak performance side, the world-class performers, healthy normals side of things. So I wanted to see what would happen. And so what I did was essentially when you do Reiki, you put your hands on a place either that has pain, like if you skinned your knee, you would put it on your knee. Or you just sort of listen intuitively, where should I put my hands on my own body or someone else's body? And then you just sort of let it flow through. And at times you can feel your hands tingling, or you can feel different things. And usually the person getting the Reiki feels a lot of heat from your hands, even though your hands might be cold. So it's kind of cool. Like people do actually feel a thing, but it not necessarily doesn't mean if it's working or not. If your hands aren't hot, it doesn't mean it's not working. And so what I did was I would, because I was doing a lot of work with my legs, like lunges and box jumps and sprinting on the bike, I was doing a lot of the Reiki on my legs. So I put it on my quads, on my butt, and just let the process unfold. And I would do it before and after workouts. Sometimes I would do it even in between intervals, like in the middle of the workout, if I felt like I needed to get a little bit better recovery before I started another interval. And I would also do it at night before bed. And in particular, I was sort of just doing it a lot of times around my head. And so what I noticed was definitely a marked reduction in soreness. And especially if you've ever done plyometrics, if you've ever done jumping exercises, explosive exercises, you can get a lot of soreness in the first few weeks that you're doing them because you're really tearing the muscles up. And so what I noticed was instead of being sore for 2 or 3 days, I was barely sore for 1 day. And so there was a marked reduction in soreness, which meant I could come back and do sort of more hard work within the course of a week. And the other thing that I noticed, sort of the biggest thing, was better sleep on the nights that I did Reiki on myself before bed. And I would have just, those very deep, restful sleeps where you just wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, that was so intense. And usually I take that as a sign of a lot of tissue repair, a lot of recovery happening during sleep. And so when I did the Reiki, largely on my torso and my head before sleeping, I noticed, really good sleep. I also noticed that I was able to use Reiki to calm any anxiety or anger or frustration, these emotions that sometimes would sort of rattle around in my head from a tense situation during the day. I could use the Reiki to help dispel these sort of negative emotions so that I would feel more at peace and ready to sleep or ready to focus on something. And, there's other methods for that. We've talked about EFT tapping recently on the show with Dawson Church to, discharge negative emotions. And so this wasn't my primary focus, the emotional side of it. It was the physical, muscular, and cardiovascular side. But I did notice that the Reiki helped sort of calm these sort of wild, unruly emotions as well. And so, these results are super promising. I think I'll continue to do it. And I would really love to see someone in a legitimate research university bring in trained Reiki professionals and a team of athletes and do a real comparison as to exactly what the performance differences are in trained athletes over time. I think that'd be a really interesting study. In fact, maybe I'll contact my local universities and see their sports science programs and see if they want to do something like that. It might be really fun. So let me know if if you've had Reiki, if you know what Reiki is, or if you haven't, if you're intrigued, or let me know if there's other modalities that you want me to explore, because I love self-experimentation, and I love testing these things out and seeing if there's new ways that we can use these modalities. And if you want to check it out, there's probably a Reiki practitioner in your city that you can go and get some hands-on healing. And if you don't want to do that because of pandemic, some Reiki practitioners can even do it at a distance. You don't have to be even in the same country, because this energy sort of works outside of time and space. Amazing. All right, that's all for today. Thanks for listening. Now it's your turn to go out there and be an experimenter.